for me, when the activism started, I had been hearing about lots of people that I knew that were dying of AIDS. And then one day, and David knows this story, and I told John before, I was on the set of the Ryan White movie. There was a reporter there, and we were shooting down in North Carolina, and the reporter said to him, well, how did you feel and what was going on? And he said, well, it was really hard, I would be in the grocery store with my mother and people would spit at me and call me a fag. I just, sometimes you hear something peripherally, but everything sort of comes into focus in your life. And I thought about all the people I knew that were dying. I thought about the people I knew who were sick. And I thought, I'm not doing anything, and I'm not saying anything. And the level of lying in this country, and the talk that this is a country of compassion and that we really do take care of our own, and when there's a hurricane or any kind of disaster, the president rushes to the place and stands around and helps get people back together again and gives money and takes care of everybody and says, well, it's all right, this is America, it's going to be okay. And in this case, they were treating my friends and people who had taken care of me and were my family, who I considered my family, unconscionably, reprehensibly. And I wasn't saying anything. And it was in that moment that I said, I have to do something, I have to talk about it. And so from the AIDS, it went into the LGBT rights, because it was really about the fact that we were lying in this country. We were pretending to be a country of compassion, and we were not.
We've been taught all of our lives that we're less than, that we're a mistake, we're an embarrassment, we don't belong, that we hurt people by our existence. And I remember when my partner was dying of AIDS, his last wish was for his mother and father to come see him, because the lying had to stop with AIDS, because unless you were like Ryan, a small percentage, if you got AIDS in the 80s, you were gay. So often that meant that you had to come out of the closet and announce that you had AIDS. And there was no hiding. And it in some ways, in a strange, twisted way, rejuvenated the movement. So I called my partner's parents, and they refused to come see him before he died. Now, I tell you this story for a reason, because it's really interesting to look back at this history and wax nostalgic about it. But I want you to understand what marriage means to me, and why it's so important that each and every one of you, a moral imperative, that you fight for it and sacrifice for it. Because during my partner's funeral, when his family had refused to come see him, my best friend got sick from AIDS. And so I went right from the funeral, skipped the reception, and drove to Sherman Oaks, which meant AIDS ward, and got my best friend situated, and it was midnight the day of the funeral. I got home. And when I got back to my house, and this is what marriage is about, his parents had sent armed guards and had padlocked all the doors to my home, and I could not get back in. Six months later, for court cases, I was able to get one watch that Peter gave me and my clothes. This is not a political issue. This is not a position paper. This is not a special interest group presenting this case. This is a movement for justice and human rights. And if you sit on the sidelines, you make a lie of Harry Hay and every single person who made it possible for you to listen to this wise man's words tonight.